this episode, we are looking at the Systems Security Certified Practitioner, or SSCP. This is a certification that often gets overlooked because it sits in a very practical part of the cybersecurity world. It is not aimed at absolute beginners who are still figuring out what cybersecurity is, and it is not aimed at senior leaders who spend most of their time in strategy, governance, or executive decision-making. SSCP lives in the middle ground, where real work happens. It is built for people who help secure systems, manage access, support operations, monitor environments, and keep the technology side of security functioning day after day.
If this certification is on your study list, a free and complete audio course is available in the Bare Metal Cyber Academy at baremetalcyber.com, complete with a study guide and a second ebook featuring 1,000 flashcard questions.
That makes SSCP especially important for early career professionals and career changers who are starting to move from general IT work into more direct security responsibility. A lot of people reach a point where they are no longer just resetting passwords, closing tickets, or maintaining systems without context. They start getting involved in access decisions, patching priorities, log review, endpoint controls, incident handling, system hardening, and the kind of routine security work that keeps an organization stable. SSCP is meant to validate that kind of hands-on knowledge. It tells employers that you are not just familiar with security terms. It suggests that you understand how security works inside real systems and daily operations.
The certification comes from ISC Squared, which is one of the most recognized names in cybersecurity certification. That matters because the market tends to take ISC Squared credentials seriously. When people hear ISC Squared, they often think of major certifications that carry long-term professional value. SSCP is one of the organization's practical, operations-focused certifications, and that positioning is part of what makes it useful. It gives people a credential from a respected issuer without forcing them into a senior-level exam that does not yet match their day-to-day work. In that sense, SSCP can be a very smart bridge. It sits between broad introductory knowledge and the larger responsibilities that come later in a security career.
Another reason SSCP stands out is that it is tied to actual experience. This is not just a study and pass certification. It is designed for people who either already have some real-world exposure or are close to that point. That is important because it shapes the feel of the exam and the value of the credential. The exam is not really asking whether you can memorize isolated facts. It is asking whether you understand how security controls, operational decisions, and technical responsibilities fit together in practice. That practical angle is one of the biggest reasons people in support, administration, operations, and junior security roles should pay attention to it.
When you look at what SSCP covers, the scope is broad, but still clearly operational. The exam focuses on core security concepts and practices, access controls, risk identification, monitoring and analysis, incident response and recovery, cryptography, network and communication security, and systems and application security. That is a big spread, but it is not random. These are the domains that come together in everyday security work. You are expected to understand how users get access, how systems are protected, how activity is monitored, how problems are recognized, how incidents are handled, and how security controls support the larger environment.
That domain mix also tells you what SSCP is not. It is not a narrowly specialized exam about one tool, one cloud provider, one compliance scheme, or one technical niche. It is also not a purely managerial exam built around policies and high-level frameworks. Instead, it is an exam for people who need to think operationally. You need to understand what a secure choice looks like in context. You need to understand what least privilege really means when accounts are being created and permissions are being assigned. You need to understand what good monitoring looks like, why recovery matters, how systems can fail securely or insecurely, and how defensive work connects across networks, endpoints, identities, and applications.
That practical focus leads to one of the most important things to understand about SSCP. The exam rewards applied thinking. It is not enough to know a term. You have to know why it matters and how it is used. You may need to recognize which control makes the most sense in a given situation, what a log pattern suggests, what the safest next step would be during an incident, or how a change to one part of the environment affects security elsewhere. This is why some people underestimate the exam at first. They assume it will be straightforward because it is not positioned as an elite senior credential. But practical exams can be tricky in their own way because they test judgment, not just recall.
A common misconception is that SSCP is just a smaller version of a more senior ISC² certification. That is not the best way to think about it. SSCP has its own lane. It is more grounded in the work of securing and administering systems than in broad security leadership or enterprise-wide strategy. Another misconception is that it is mostly about memorization. Memorization helps, of course, because you need a working vocabulary and a solid grasp of core concepts. But the real value comes from understanding how those ideas work together. That is why people with some hands-on experience often find that the material starts to click in a deeper way than it does for people who are trying to learn it as nothing but abstract theory.
The exam experience itself also shapes how you should prepare. SSCP is not something you want to approach casually. It is timed, it is designed to measure competence efficiently, and it expects you to make decisions with confidence. That means you need more than passive exposure. Reading once is not enough. Watching a video once is not enough. Listening once is not enough. You need repetition, and you need repetition in different forms. You want to hear the ideas, read the explanations, review the terminology, and answer enough practice questions to spot patterns in the way operational security decisions are framed.
A good study approach for SSCP starts with understanding the exam blueprint at a high level. Before you dive into details, get clear on the major domains and what each one really covers. Then start connecting those domains to tasks you already know or can easily picture. Access control is not just a chapter title. It is tied to user provisioning, permissions, authentication, remote access, service accounts, and privilege decisions. Monitoring and analysis is not just about logging in theory. It is about actually noticing signs of trouble, understanding what normal looks like, and recognizing what deserves attention. Incident response and recovery is not just a set of steps on paper. It is about the rhythm of detection, containment, restoration, and learning from what happened.
Once that foundation is in place, you want a study rhythm that works in real life. This is where many busy professionals either gain momentum or lose it. A study plan that only works on your best day is not a good study plan. You need something you can continue even when work is busy and life is crowded. That is one reason the Bare Metal Cyber Academy can be useful in a natural way. The free audio course developed by Bare Metal Cyber can help you keep the material moving through your week when you are driving, walking, or doing routine tasks. The study guide gives you the fuller structure and deeper explanations when you sit down for focused learning. The flashcards ebook helps with repetition, recall, and weak area cleanup. Used together, those resources support a steady rhythm instead of a stop-and-start grind.
Hands-on reinforcement also matters, even if your environment is modest. You do not need a huge enterprise lab to make SSCP concepts more real. You can still practice the logic behind security tasks. Think about how accounts are created and reviewed. Think about how systems are patched and hardened. Think about what event logs can tell you. Think about backups, recovery steps, certificates, segmentation, multi-factor authentication, and the practical trade-offs between usability and control. If you can connect the material to actual actions and actual systems, your retention gets stronger and your judgment improves. That matters on the exam, and it matters even more on the job.
It is also worth being honest about weak areas. Almost everyone has them. Some people are stronger in networking and weaker in incident response. Some are more comfortable with access controls than cryptography. Some know systems well, but have gaps in monitoring logic or secure application concepts. The goal is not to become equally passionate about every domain. The goal is to get honest about where you are thin and work those areas on purpose. That means tracking what you miss, reviewing why you missed it, and returning to those topics before the exam, instead of hoping they will somehow improve on their own.
Confidence for SSCP comes from pattern recognition. The more you study well, the more you start to notice how the domains connect. Access control affects system security. Network design affects monitoring. Good recovery planning affects incident outcomes. Cryptography is not floating on its own. It supports secure communication, identity, trust, and protected data handling across the environment. When those links become natural in your mind, the exam starts to feel less like a pile of isolated facts and more like a picture of real-world security operations. That is the point where many candidates begin to feel ready.
From a career perspective, SSCP supports roles where people are trusted with real technical responsibility. It can strengthen the profile of someone working in systems administration, security analysis, network operations with a security focus, or similar hands-on roles. Hiring managers often see value in it because it suggests discipline, operational awareness, and a more mature understanding of defensive work than a pure beginner credential alone might show. It can be especially helpful for someone who has experience but needs a recognized way to signal that their knowledge now includes security-specific responsibility.
As for where it fits in a broader path, SSCP often makes the most sense after you have some practical exposure and before you move toward larger or more specialized credentials. It can help you formalize what you already know while giving you a stronger base for whatever comes next. For some people, that next step may be a broader and more senior security certification later on. For others, it may be a move into cloud security, governance, platform-specific work, or another specialization. SSCP does not have to be the final destination to be a valuable milestone. In many cases, its real strength is that it helps turn working experience into a clearer professional identity.
So, who benefits most from SSCP? Usually, it is the person who has moved beyond pure fundamentals and is now taking on real security tasks inside live environments. It is a strong fit for the early career practitioner who wants to be taken seriously in operational security work. It is also a good fit for the career changer who already has technical footing and wants a certification that reflects practical security responsibility instead of only introductory awareness. If that sounds like where you are, SSCP is worth serious consideration. And if you want a flexible way to prepare while balancing work and life, the Bare Metal Cyber Academy resources can help you build a study process that is realistic, structured, and easier to sustain.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.